Did you know you can duck specific frequencies from your instruments every time the snare hits to allow it to cut through the mix? For instance, I like to sidechain my instruments to the fundamental frequency of my snare. Check this out. Or you can just duck the low frequencies from your bass every time the kick hits, like this equalizer in my bass track. And you can do that without an expensive dynamic equalizer, using only the stock effects that come with Ableton Live. I'm Thales, pop music producer, and in this short video I'll show you how to set up some devices so that this frequency-specific sidechaining happens automatically. You don't have to manually draw automations or anything. Alright, let's say you want to open up space in your synthesizer or guitar tracks for your snare to cut through. The first thing we're gonna load is the envelope follower on the snare track. This is the most powerful device inside of Ableton Live in my opinion. You can create all kinds of cool effects with this thing by using the envelope shape of a certain sound, the attack, decay, and release of a certain instrument or percussive hit to modulate parameters from any device on any track. Next, we're gonna load an equalizer. It's going to go on the snare track for now, and later we'll move it to the instrument track. Find the fundamental frequency of your snare, or at least the frequency range where the body of the snare happens, and create a bell cut. For example, this snare has a lot of energy at around 200 Hz. We're going to use the envelope follower to modulate the amount of reduction on that bell, and this cut will only trigger when the snare hits. To set that up, click Map, then click the gain in the equalizer band. Now, it's working backwards. Let's fix the configuration in the envelope follower. The minimum value has to stay at 50% so that nothing happens when the snare is not playing. That means the equalizer will not affect the instrument tracks unless the snare triggers the automation. The maximum value is where you define how extreme this ducking will be. 0 will cause the maximum reduction, and any value above 0 will make this effect more subtle. But if you go past 50%, you're actually boosting the frequencies instead of ducking. That can be useful for different purposes, but for sidechaining, keep it below 50%. Hey, subscribe to the channel. Now, this ducking is super tight, and if you want the effect to last a bit longer, adjust the fall knob. It works like the release on a sidechain compressor. Once this is set up, you can safely move the equalizer to the track you actually want to sidechain. I'll put this on the instruments group so it affects all the harmonic instruments at once. And if I press play, it's almost unnoticeable because the sidechaining is so specific. So this is a very transparent sidechain, but the snare cuts through much easier. If I solo the instruments group and make the cut wider, it's easier to notice the effect. Now, if you want to use this to sidechain kick and bass, just the low end, make sure the envelope follower is on the kick track. And the equalizer is on the bass track. Then I would change the bell cut to a shelf and adjust the frequency band. If that's cutting too much for your taste, you can even scale down the equalizer so that it will only cut a few decibels. I like this method of sidechaining because I can use the fastest release and never get any distortion, which can happen with compressors. Besides the fact that I choose the frequencies I want to duck, so the sidechain effect's not too noticeable and dramatic, and it's all possible with Ableton Live stock devices. Think of all the sidechain possibilities now. By the way, you can duck as many frequencies as you want, Each envelope follower can modulate up to 8 EQ bands at once, from multiple equalizers on different tracks or a single equalizer. Now, if you enjoyed learning this transparent sidechain technique with only stock effects from Ableton Live, I think you're gonna love learning how to layer textures with the vocoder device. Here's your next video.